Have you ever wondered about the richest person who ever lived? It wasn't someone from our time. His name was Mansa Musa, and he was a king in Africa a long, long time ago. He was born around the year 1280 into a powerful family called the Keita dynasty. Imagine being born into a family of rulers. His great-uncle was the famous Sundiata Keita, the founder of the great Mali Empire. From a very young age, Musa was surrounded by stories of bravery, leadership, and the immense power of his people. He grew up knowing that he was part of something special, a legacy that stretched back through generations of strong and wise leaders who had built a kingdom known for its strength and unity. Growing up as a prince in the Mali Empire was an education in itself. Young Musa learned everything a future leader needed to know. He was taught about his kingdom's history, the laws of the land, and the traditions of his people. He learned how to be a fair judge and a strong warrior, but his education went beyond just ruling. He was also taught about the world outside of Mali. He learned about different cultures, different faiths, and the great trade routes that connected his empire to faraway lands. This knowledge helped him understand his place in the world and gave him a big, open mind. He was curious and eager to learn, qualities that would serve him well when his time to rule finally arrived. Musa was a devout Muslim, and his faith was a very important part of his life. He studied the Quran and learned the teachings of Islam from wise scholars. This spiritual education shaped him into a compassionate and thoughtful leader. It taught him the importance of justice, charity, and caring for his people. His faith wasn't just a private belief, it was a guide for how he lived his life and how he would one day rule his kingdom. He believed that his power and wealth were gifts from God, and it was his duty to use them for the good of everyone. This deep sense of responsibility would become a hallmark of his reign, guiding his actions and decisions. As he grew into a young man, Musa watched and learned from the rulers who came before him. He saw how they managed the empire's vast resources and how they dealt with other kingdoms. He understood that being a king was more than just wearing a crown. It was about serving the people and making their lives better. He was prepared for a life of service, but he probably didn't know just how great his destiny would be. He was waiting in the wings, a prince full of potential, ready for the moment when history would call his name. Little did he know, that call would come in a very unusual and unexpected way, setting him on a path to become a legend. The way Mansa Musa became king is a story that sounds like it came from a fantastic adventure book. The ruler at the time was his predecessor, Mansa Abu Bakr II. This king was not content with ruling just the land. He was a great dreamer, and his biggest dream was to explore the vast Atlantic Ocean. He believed that the ocean was not an end but a beginning, and he wanted to know what lay on the other side. Can you imagine the courage it took to even think of such a thing? Everyone else saw the ocean as a great, mysterious barrier, but Abu Bakr II saw it as a challenge, an invitation to discover something new and wonderful for his people and for the world. So Abu Bakr II decided to act on his dream. He put together a huge expedition. He gathered hundreds of ships, filled them with skilled sailors, and packed them with enough food and water to last for a very long time. He instructed them to sail west and not to return until they had found the other side of the ocean, or had run out of supplies. Before he left, he needed someone trustworthy to rule the empire in his place. He chose his deputy, Mansa Musa. Musa was appointed to rule while the king was away, a temporary leader for a kingdom whose king was off on the grandest of adventures. Everyone waited, hoping for news of the king's great discovery. Time passed, and the great fleet did not return. Only one single ship came back. The captain told a story of a great current in the middle of the ocean like a river that swept the other ships away. He had turned back, but the rest were gone, lost to the great unknown. But King Abu Bakr II was not discouraged. His dream was too strong. He decided that he would lead a second, even larger expedition himself. He was determined to cross the great water and see what new lands were waiting to be found. He gathered thousands of ships this time, an even greater fleet than before, ready to face the mighty ocean once more. And so, Mansa Abu Bakr II said goodbye to his kingdom and his people, and he sailed away into the horizon, disappearing into the vast blue expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. He was never seen or heard from again. With the king gone, the man he had left in charge, Mansa Musa, was no longer a temporary ruler. He was now the new Mansa, the king of the Mali Empire. It was a surprising turn of events. Musa had become king not through war or conflict but because his predecessor had sailed off in search of a dream. Now the future of the great empire rested on his shoulders, and he was ready to lead it to even greater heights. Now that he was king, Mansa Musa was in charge of one of the richest empires in the world. But where did all this wealth come from? The answer is simple: gold. The Mali Empire was blessed with enormous gold mines. Imagine rivers of gold and mountains filled with this precious metal. The mines at Bambouk, Bur and Galam were legendary, producing more gold than anyone had ever seen. The people of Mali were expert miners, and they brought this incredible wealth out of the earth. This gold wasn't just shiny rock, it was the foundation of the empire's power and influence. It allowed Mali to trade for anything it needed and to build a society of incredible prosperity. But the empire's wealth wasn't just from gold. Mali was a huge kingdom with vast lands that stretched across West Africa. This land was fertile and good for farming. Farmers grew all sorts of crops, from millet and sorghum to rice, which meant there was always plenty of food for everyone. A kingdom with full bellies is a happy and strong kingdom. This agricultural strength meant that Mali didn't have to depend on other places for food. It could support its large population and its grand cities all by itself. The combination of rich farmland and unbelievable mineral wealth made Mali a true powerhouse, self-sufficient and incredibly prosperous. On top of its gold and its land, the Mali Empire was a master of trade. It sat at the crossroads of the great trans-Saharan trade routes. Think of these routes as giant highways across the desert, connecting West Africa with North Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. Great camel caravans, sometimes with thousands of camels, would travel across the sands. They carried Mali's gold and salt to the north. In return, they brought back beautiful textiles, horses, books, and other valuable goods. The empire controlled these trade routes, and every time goods passed through, the kingdom became a little richer through taxes and trade. Mansa Musa understood the power of this trade and worked to make it even stronger. Mansa Musa was a brilliant leader who knew how to use this wealth to make his empire even greater. He didn't just hoard the gold for himself. He used it to build a strong army to protect his people and his trade routes. He expanded the empire's borders, bringing more people and more resources under his rule. Under his leadership, the Mali Empire grew to its largest size, stretching for over 2,000 miles. It was a place of peace and safety. Travelers and merchants knew they could journey through Mali without fear, and this security made trade flourish even more. The Kingdom of Mali became famous far and wide, a legendary land of peace, power, and unbelievable riches. As a devout Muslim, one of the most important things a person can do is make a pilgrimage or Hajj to the holy city of Mecca. Mansa Musa, being a powerful and wealthy king, decided it was time for him to make this sacred journey in the year 1324. But this was not going to be any ordinary trip. This was going to be a journey that the world would never forget. He prepared a massive procession, a moving city of people and animals that would travel thousands of miles across the desert. He wanted to show the world the glory of his empire and the depth of his faith. It was a statement of power, piety, and prosperity, all rolled into one incredible caravan. The scale of his pilgrimage was simply breathtaking. Imagine a line of people stretching as far as the eye can see. Mansa Musa traveled with an entourage of 60,000 people. This included soldiers for protection, officials to manage the journey, storytellers to entertain, and thousands of servants to take care of everyone's needs. And then there were the camels. He brought with him over 100 camels, and each one was loaded down with bags of pure gold dust. Along the way, on every Friday, the day of prayer, he would order a new mosque to be built wherever they had stopped. It was a display of wealth and devotion unlike anything anyone had ever witnessed before. When this golden caravan arrived in Cairo, Egypt, it caused a tremendous stir. The Sultan of Egypt was amazed by the sheer size and splendor of Mansa Musa's procession. Mansa Musa was a generous man, and he gave away gold to everyone he met. He gave gold to the poor, to the city officials, and to the merchants. He spent so much gold in the city's markets buying souvenirs and gifts that he completely changed the local economy. He put so much gold into circulation that the value of gold in Egypt dropped dramatically and didn't recover for more than 10 years. He literally gave away so much wealth that he made gold less valuable. This incredible act of generosity made Mansa Musa famous throughout the known world. Stories of the wealthy African king spread like wildfire through the Middle East and into Europe. For the first time, many people in other parts of the world learned about the great and powerful Mali Empire. Before his journey, Mali was a distant, mysterious place, but after his Hajj, it was known as a land of incredible wealth and opportunity. Mansa Musa had put his kingdom on the map. His pilgrimage was more than just a religious journey. It was a masterful act of public relations that announced Africa's power to the entire world. After his incredible journey to Mecca, Mansa Musa didn't just come back with stories and souvenirs. He came back with a vision. He had seen the magnificent cities of the Middle East, with their grand mosques, beautiful palaces, and centers of learning. He was inspired. He wanted to bring that same level of architectural beauty and intellectual energy back to his own kingdom. So, he invited some of the most talented people he met on his travels to return with him to Mali. He brought back scholars, poets, and most importantly, architects who could help him build his dream. He wanted to transform the cities of his empire into world-class centers of culture and faith. One of the most famous people he brought back was an architect and poet from Granada named Abu Ishaq es-Saheli. Es-Saheli was a master of the building styles of the Islamic world, and Mansa Musa gave him a grand task. He asked es-Saheli to design and build new magnificent buildings in Mali, using new techniques like baked brick instead of the traditional mud brick. The king paid him handsomely for his work, giving him a huge amount of gold for his services. This was the beginning of a new style of architecture in West Africa, a unique blend of local traditions and influences from the wider Muslim world, often called Sudano-Sahelian architecture. The most famous project they worked on together was the Great Djinguereber Mosque in Timbuktu. This wasn't just a place of worship. It was a masterpiece. Built from earth and reinforced with wood, it became a symbol of the city and the empire. It was a massive structure that could hold thousands of worshippers, and its minaret rose high into the sky, a beacon of faith visible from miles away. Mansa Musa also commissioned the construction of a grand new palace for himself, also designed by es-Saheli, as well as libraries and universities. He was investing his wealth not just in gold, but in the physical and spiritual foundation of his empire, creating buildings that would stand for centuries. These building projects completely transformed cities like Timbuktu and Gao. They went from being important trading posts to becoming architectural marvels. The new mosques, schools, and libraries made these cities famous throughout the Islamic world. Scholars and students were drawn to them, eager to see the new buildings and to learn in the new universities. Mansa Musa's vision was becoming a reality. He was using his immense wealth to create a lasting legacy of beauty, faith, and knowledge. He was building not just for his own time but for the future generations of his people, ensuring that the Mali Empire would be remembered for its culture as well as its gold. Mansa Musa understood that a truly great empire needed more than just wealth and strong buildings. It needed knowledge, it needed wisdom. With the new mosques and libraries he had built, he turned his focus to making the city of Timbuktu one of the greatest centers of learning in the entire world. It wasn't enough to just have the buildings. He wanted to fill them with the brightest minds and the most important books. He used his wealth to attract scholars, scientists, mathematicians, and theologians from all over the Islamic world, from Cairo to Cordoba. Timbuktu soon became a magnet for anyone who was passionate about learning. The city buzzed with intellectual energy. The University of Sankore, which was part of the Sankore Mosque, became especially famous. It wasn't a university like we think of today with one big campus. Instead, it was made up of many independent schools, each run by a master scholar. Students would come from far and wide to study here. They studied a wide range of subjects, including law, medicine, astronomy, philosophy, and the Quran. Education was highly valued, and the city became known for its book trade. In fact, it was said that books were even more valuable and profitable to trade in Timbuktu than gold was. This focus on education created a culture of literacy and scholarship that was rare for its time. Thousands of books were written and copied by hand in Timbuktu. These precious manuscripts covered every subject imaginable and were stored in large private and public libraries. Families would pass down their collections of books from one generation to the next. This created a rich archive of African and Islamic knowledge. It shows us that this was a society that deeply valued ideas and intellectual exploration. Timbuktu was a shining light of knowledge during a time that some people in Europe call the Dark Ages. It was a place where ideas were celebrated and preserved. Mansa Musa's investment in knowledge paid off beautifully. Timbuktu became a legendary city not just for its gold, but for its wisdom. It was a place where different cultures and ideas could meet and mix peacefully. The city's reputation for learning and tolerance spread far and wide, adding to the prestige of the Mali Empire. By building this great center of education, Mansa Musa ensured that his legacy would be about more than just wealth. He created a golden age of learning in West Africa, a legacy of knowledge that continues to inspire people to this day. He showed the world that the greatest treasure of all is a curious and educated mind. Mansa Musa ruled the Mali Empire for about 25 years, and his reign was marked by peace, justice, and prosperity. He was known as a wise and fair ruler who cared deeply for his people. He established a strong and organized government to manage his vast empire. He divided the empire into provinces, each with its own governor, to make sure that laws were enforced and taxes were collected fairly. He created a system of justice that was respected throughout the land, ensuring that everyone, from the poorest farmer to the richest merchant, could expect a fair hearing. This stability allowed his people to live their lives in security and peace, which is one of the greatest gifts a ruler can give. His incredible wealth became a legend that captured the imagination of the world. After his famous pilgrimage, mapmakers in Europe began to include the Kingdom of Mali on their maps. One famous map from 1375, called the Catalan Atlas, shows a powerful African king sitting on a golden throne, wearing a golden crown and holding a huge nugget of gold. That king was Mansa Musa. This was one of the first times a West African ruler was shown with such respect and power on a European map. He was no longer an unknown figure from a mysterious land. He was recognized as one of the most powerful and wealthy monarchs on earth. However, this great fame also brought challenges. Such incredible wealth naturally made Mali's neighbors envious. The stories of a kingdom paved with gold attracted unwanted attention. After Mansa Musa's death around 1337, the empire began to face problems. His successors were not as strong or as wise as he was. They struggled to manage the vast empire and protect its immense wealth. Neighboring kingdoms began to attack, and internal conflicts weakened the empire from within. Slowly, over time, the great Mali Empire that Mansa Musa had built began to decline. His golden age was a magnificent peak, but it was one that proved difficult to maintain after he was gone. Even though his empire eventually faded, Mansa Musa's legacy shines as brightly as ever. He is remembered as a symbol of Africa's rich and glorious past. His story proves that great, wealthy, and powerful civilizations flourished in Africa long before the arrival of Europeans. He represents a time of African strength, innovation, and global influence. Today, his story is a source of pride and inspiration. It reminds us of the incredible potential that lies within the continent. Mansa Musa was more than just the richest man in history. He was a visionary leader, a builder of culture, and a beacon of knowledge whose light continues to guide and inspire us all.